everyone should have a file with a bunch of individual bodies. You don't want these all stuck together. So like what could have happened is, if you created all these and then you accidentally did a join command like later on, you could be having all of these stuck together and you'd only have one body. So make sure that these are all individual bodies and these are each, selectable and stuff like that. Okay, so we want to lay this all out, and Fusion now has a built-in way to tile everything up like I showed you last week. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is, once your model is all done and ready, now we're going to go from your design workspace, click up here in the top left and change this to your manufacturer workspace. So now you should see all of these manufacturer tools, and you should see some drill bits and stuff appear up here. We don't need most of this right now. Later on in this class, we'll be going over this for the CNC machine, but right now we're just laser cutting. So let's see. So underneath setup in the top left here, there's a button to create a manufacturing model. We're going to use that. So it's a little roundabout in the way that Fusion handles this layout tool. You need to create a normal design, bring it into manufacturer, and then creating a manufacturing model basically takes you back into the design workspace. But you have to do it this way because it gives you a couple extra tools that the standard design workspace doesn't give you. So I'm going to create a manufacturing model, and now you see that appear in my browser tree here on the left. So I have all my manufacturing models open, and I have manufacturing model 1 visible right here. I'm going to right click that and edit it. So right click and edit manufacturing model. And now this looks, like I said, pretty much just like your standard design workspace, but it's not. It has a couple extra tools. You see this components thing here. Okay, well, if you're able to drop down modify and see an arrange tool, then you're in the right spot. Perfect. So don't worry about the components thing then. I guess that's not true for everyone that they have it. You're going to want to select all of your bodies, right click, and create components from bodies. Okay? So then you should have a ton of components appear on the left-hand side here. For whatever reason, it just wants bodies as components to lay everything out. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to drop down modify, and we're going to use the arrange tool. So it's this one here under your modify tab. And this is your tool to lay everything out flat. And it's automatically going to calculate it for you. It does all the work. It's super nice. What the previous professor for this class liked to have you do everything manually. And I ended up helping out a lot of the classmates to do this because it's just so much easier, especially if you have a complex model. You could spend hours just laying out all your pieces and trying to make them fit, or you can have the computer do it for you in 10 seconds. So super powerful tool. So I have my solver type at 2D true shape. For my, for what I'm doing, this is what I want. You should pretty much always have this on 2D true shape. 2D rectangular is going to, essentially when you hover over it, it tells you what it's going to do, but it's not as powerful and it's not going to be able to pack things as closely. So we want 2D true shape, which is the default. And then you'll see right now this is highlighted blue. That means it's waiting for me to select my components, but I'm going to walk you through this before I tell you about that. Nice voice crack. The rotation, so there's ways to force. Are you good?
Sorry, did it say arrange?
Yes, arrange. If you guys care about the grain direction of your plywood, let me know. I'll help you out and walk you through how to force this to retain the direction of grain that you have going in your model. If you don't know what that is, don't worry about it. It's just for those of you that are very detail oriented, like myself. So we're going to leave that at all rotations. This will let it rotate these parts any way it needs to in order to make them fit best. And then at the bottom here, you have objects selected by face. So for my chair model, all of my, my pieces here are the same all the way through. If you have any that have like half depth cuts or anything, you're going to really want to keep in mind what orientation you're selecting things in. Because if you had a half depth cut, but then you selected that side to be down, the CNC can't go, can't cut up from underneath. It can only cut from the top. So keep that in mind when you're selecting things. And then also keep in mind, like, I try and select all the same side of a face, just so things will tile up a little more nicely. This shape doesn't matter as much, but if you went through and you selected the top of one and the bottom of another one, depending on what shape you have, they might not tile nicely. So just keep that in mind. Think about, how everything might fit together based on which face you're selecting. Okay, a lot of words. Let's start going ahead and selecting each of these. I'm going to select the bottom face here, and I have my component selection on. It's highlighted blue, and I have the face up. In my case, it doesn't really matter which one of these I'm using because they're the same either way. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to zoom in a little bit, because if you notice when I zoomed out, sometimes it'll highlight the whole thing, and then sometimes if I move a little down, you notice how it's switching between the whole shape and just the bottom face. I'm making it easier for myself to select just the bottom face here by zooming in a little more. I'm just going to go through and I'm going to select all of these. Is everyone following along? Does this make sense? Okay. Cool. And then I'm going to select now the outer sides too. So I'm going to select both of those. And then I don't have preview checked, especially on the computers we have here that aren't super fast. What's that?
You need to exit auto preview.
I'm going over that right now. So I don't have it checked right now. You can turn it on. For more complex things on these computers, those computers aren't super fast. So if you're having performance issues, just turn off auto preview. And right now you can just click preview if you want. I guess we need to set up the envelopes first. Let's do that. So we need to tell it what face we want it on. We want it on the bottom face here. So by the way, I just switched from my objects tab to my envelopes tab up here. And then this is highlighted blue. I'm going to tell it what plane I want to lay everything out on. And then this is going to be the size of your layout. So in this, what's that?
So the length is 304.
No, I'm about to change it. So in this case, we have a 4 foot. So I'm going to type 4 and then a little apostrophe, which means foot, by 4 foot. And I'm going to uncheck allow partial arrange. You want to uncheck that because if you leave that checked and you arrange, and if it can't fit all of your parts, it will just not include one of the parts in your arrangement, and you'll go and you'll cut out your chair, and then you'll realize that you're missing a part and it never told you that. So I uncheck allow partial arrange, and then it'll tell me, hey, I can't fit all this. If you've got that unchecked and it's not fitting everything, come chat with me. We'll figure out how we can make everything fit. You might need to make some stuff smaller. So I have that turned off. The things that matter right now are the length and width are 4 feet. And I have the bottom plane selected. And then I have object spacing here. This can change how tightly packed they are. For now, I'm going to leave it at the default and just see what it's going to lay out for me. So I'm clicking preview. And you see this blue square here, this is the size of our panel of wood, and it has had no problems fitting all this on that panel of wood easily.
Apparently it doesn't have the cuts on there.
That's because you're using your model. If you downloaded my model, my model has these cuts on it.
Download it.
Huh?
I can download it.
You downloaded my model.
No, I mean,
That's fine. We're not worried about this right now. I'm just walking you through how we're doing this. It doesn't need to look exactly like mine. My model's slightly different than yours. What matters is that you're understanding how this all lays everything out. Okay. In this case, because I have so much extra space, I'm just going to give myself a little more object spacing, maybe like 10 millimeters, and then click preview again, and you'll notice it spaces everything out a little larger. So that looks great to me. So I'm going to click OK. And now you have your arrangements and your chair whatever you have your thing titled here. I'm just going to turn the visibility off on my actual 3D model. And I have my arrangement. Here's everything laid out. We're not quite ready to laser cut yet. We still need to do a few more things. So, first things first, I have not scaled this yet. So there's kind of two ways to go about doing your scale models here. You can either, in the model itself, scale it down, and then you have like a separate scaled down model that you use for laser cutting at a smaller scale. In this case, I think it's a little easier to just scale it down inside of your manufacturing model, because this won't mess up your the rest of your model essentially. So I have everything laid out. I'm going to go to Modify, I'm going to go to Scale, and then I'm just going to window select everything. And then I'm going to go 0.25, and I'm going to click OK. So now you have a quarter scale model. The reason we did it in here is when you go back to your actual 3D model, that'll still be in full scale. Like I said, you can do it in your 3D model. If you've already done it in your 3D model, you don't need to scale right now. But for this manufacturing model, that's where I'm going to scale it. Cool? I did 0.25, so that's a quarter scale. Because we have a 4 foot by 4 foot for our final project, but right now we're doing 1 foot by 1 foot on the laser cutter. All right. Now I have everything laid out, and it's the scale I need for the laser cutter. So I need to now export everything as kind of lines that I can use, or that the laser cutter can read. So we're going to create a new sketch, and I'm going to place this. I'm going to turn the visibility of my origin on. I'm going to place this on the bottom surface here. One thing to think about is, while you could just click on the top surface of one of these that you have laid out, that will project the geometry of whatever face that you select to your sketch, which right now we want a super clean sketch. So I don't want to have that projected into my sketch. So that's why I'm creating it on the origin. Does that make sense at all? I want this sketch as clean as possible. I want to only have what I want on the sketch, because we're going to export this sketch. And when it comes to exporting sketches, it can be a little funny, so you want the cleanest result you can get. So we're creating the sketch on this plane rather than on one of these planes here. So now I have my sketch, and it's up here because I scaled everything down. You could move it over if you want. I'm not going to, because I don't want to mess anything up. Now we're going to use our project tool. So you can press P on your keyboard, or you can drop down Create, go to Project, Include, and Project.
So we finished this edit.
No, we're still in the same edit.
So create sketch.
Yeah, you created a sketch on that bottom plane. So we're project include project, or press P on your keyboard, and I'm going to select all of my shapes here. And I'm just clicking, I'm not selecting each edge and each point here. I'm just clicking on the center face, and that's going to do all I need it to. I don't need to worry about anything else. So I have top face of all of my parts selected here. And I'm going to click OK. And now you see a bunch of purple dots and purple lines everywhere. Purple just means that it's projected geometry. The reason, what? You have all these. The reason that we didn't create the sketch on one of these is you would have basically double projected lines, and when you go to laser cut it would cut it twice. So we don't want that. So that's why we created this sketch on the plane rather than the surface of this. Cool. I'm going to click Finish Sketch, and I'm not going to finish Edit. We're still in the manufacturing model workspace. I'm going to drop down Sketches, and you have Sketch 1 should be locked. And this is the sketches in the manufacturing model workspace. There is also sketches down here in your model workspace. We don't want that. We want the manufacturing workspace sketches on the first branch of the tree, so to speak. And I'm going to right-click Sketch 1, and I'm going to export that as DXF. This is super important to export as DXF this way. You can click on here and you can export things as DXF. It's going to be a broken DXF. It's not going to work. You have to right-click the sketch and export that DXF through there. Never export from the file icon area for a DXF expecting it to work for you, because it won't. I have my units in millimeters. I'll change them to inches. You can, whatever's fine, as long as it's in to correct scale in the real world. I can adjust the scale when I go to laser cut it. But, you know, I'm going to hit inch. Makes it easier for me if you do that, but it's not the end of the world if you don't. And I'm going to turn off the points. And, I mean, as long as projected geometry is on, because that's all that's on the sketch and that's what we want to export, I turned off points so that it's a slightly smaller file and I don't have these kind of floating out there in the middle of nowhere. I'm going to click OK. And now I can name it. So let's say chair for cool. And then if you click on these three dots here, that'll let you choose where you're saving it to. I'm happy with it being in my downloads folder. If you click on this, you can choose, it'll look a little different on Windows, but you know, as long as you're familiar with your file browser, pretty easy. And then I'm going to click Save. Perfect. And then that file that you just saved, that DXF, I just need that in some way or another. So whether you email that to me or whether you can put that on a USB drive. I have a couple USB drives with me if you prefer to go that route. That's what we need from you in order to laser cut. And that's all we need. I don't need your Fusion model or anything. I'm going to go ahead and finish edit and hit save. And we're done. We're ready to laser cut.